experience have you had with Motown?
What experience have I had?
Or tell us, yeah.
The experience of a lifetime.
Okay.
I was 10 in 1965.
Yeah.
So I grew up right in the heart of the Motown era.
What experience have you had with Motown?
Well, I've been buying and selling records since 1966, so I've bought and sold a lot of Motown records.
What experience have you had with Motown records?
Well, I grew up listening to Motown records, you know, and I started buying singles at age 8, which would have been, you know, about 1963, which was kind of when Motown was really peaking, and I had a lot of Motown singles, 45s, and listened to the radio and heard Motown all the time, and you know, what a huge impact the music had on people around the world. I mean, I wasn't aware of the international influence until later, but now I realize how big it was in Britain and all over the place. It's amazing legacy for Detroit to have that.
But anyone that grew up, especially in the Midwest, and especially in the Detroit area or its suburbs in the 60s, the Motown music is sort of like part of your DNA code.
That's awesome.
It's something you just understand, you know, intuitively and
Single artist, probably Marvin Gaye. Probably no surprise to most people. But I also am a big fan of the Miracles before they split up. Temptations in their day were great. I mean, but if I had to name one, I'd be Marvin Gaye.
My favorite Motown artist. I'm going to say the Marvelettes, just to be a little obscure, because I've always loved them, and they were never quite in the pantheon of, you know, like Temptations, Supremes, and all those others, but I just think they're just a little more gritty in a way that appeals to me, you know.
Yeah.
I love them.
you know, and I've always loved the Temptations. I'm at this point more over fascinated with the Temptations, especially the David Ruffin era of the band, than I have been at any point in my life. Beautiful documentary. Well, I think it was an MTV made-for-television movie, two-part special called The Temptations, based on Otis Williams' book. That's just fascinating. And I went out and read the book afterwards. Great read, great read. Never got to see any of those acts live. I wasn't old enough.
Yeah.
I have two different friends that I've spoken to over the years that saw them. Saw various Motown reviews and stuff. That's how they do it. They put up 5 or 6 acts in a night. And my one friend, Steve Dixon, who's a wonderful cat and a doo-wop singer and a retired social worker, he told me that when you would go see the Temptations, when the stage would open up on that 5-pronged microphone stand, the crowd would go berserk before the Temps even walked out. And he also told me, in essentially these words, that when Paul Williams would sing For Once in My Life, he said, you could hear a pin drop in the room if it weren't for the sound of grown men crying. Which is sort of like, oh my goodness.
It's a constant flow.
Wow.
I would say. This is a store that's geared for collectors. And a lot of people collect Motown. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's not necessarily every day, but it's certainly every week there's people coming in and selling Motown, buying Motown, whatever. So, records and CDs, or whatever. You know, especially in this area, there's just a lot of it. People are, because of that, are interested in it. So it's a constant ebb and flow. So it's easy.
I think when people come here from out of town, they might look for Motown stuff, but I think to some extent, that stuff is sort of taken for granted here in our area, and it's for the same reasons that I suggested earlier about it being part of our DNA code. It's not that we don't love it, but it's people in my generation grew up with that around them all the time, and and they know at least all of the hits, kind of inside out and forwards and backwards and up and down, you know. And much like jazz has fallen out of favor in America but still has this huge following in Japan, I think, you know, if you were to talk to people in Britain today, people my age in Britain today, they would probably be more worshipful of Motown than Americans of my generation are of the Beatles. Well, good afternoon, PJs. My take is that if you live long enough, you get a 50th anniversary.
As you probably know, it's the 50th anniversary of Motown this year. Are you doing anything special in your record store to celebrate that?
No, but I don't do anything for anybody, so
Right.
it's not just Motown.
Okay.
I just, not that way.
Right.
People who collect Motown. People don't.
What is your take on the 50th anniversary of Motown? And are you doing anything special for it as a record?
Well, you know, I think I was aware. I don't think we're doing anything special. We've always carried Motown music and you know, done well with it. So the 50th anniversary, that's really amazing and impressive. That there's still a functioning, you know, label when so many labels and so many music-related things have gone out of business. We're one of the few record stores left.
Yeah.
So.
I'm proud to have lived long enough to see a Motown 50th anniversary. Not sure that I expected that when I was a kid. But we're not, I mean, we're just a little mom and pop record store in the post-Napster world, and so we're just sort of hanging on by our fingernails, and there's no however much there might be an inclination, there's no real money to do anything like special, you know. I mean, we try to stock as much of the cool Motown stuff as we can. Anything that's available is a reissue, and you know, anytime we see someone present something that's in good shape, we try to buy it. The stuff is collectible, though. Never as high demand as you might imagine. I think when people come here from out of town, they might look for Motown stuff, but I think to some extent, that stuff is sort of taken for granted.